Hi there. So we are going to talk about the rhetorical situation, or actually I am going to tell you about the rhetorical situation. So we're going to start with context. If you didn't fall asleep during the information on the rhetorical triangle, context fits with a technoi there. That's the almost circle surrounding the rhetorical triangle. It's the context, everything outside of the immediate relationship between the reader, the writer, or the speaker and the listener, and the text, whether that text is written or spoken. And that context can be narrow or it can be pretty broad. You want to take into account all of the things that may affect the reception of what it is you're trying to communicate. So it will overlap. I mean, your audience is part of the context, your purpose is part of the context, genre constraints, which we will hit on those three later, are all part of the context, as are you, the writer, as a student, whether you are a running start student, a student who just graduated from high school, maybe a student who just completed their GED after coming back, maybe you're a veteran taking advantage of the GI Bill, maybe you are a person who is returning to school after having been in the workforce for however many years you've been in there. All of that is part of your personal context, as well as the fact that we are in America. And that's because there is a distinction between what is expected for American academic writing compared to a lot of European academic writing, though there's considerable overlap there, but also compared to, we'll say, Asian, Chinese, Japanese academic writing, which is considerably different in terms of expectations than the American. So we're teaching you an American academic discourse is a good way to sum it up. It's also, I think, I don't remember if I just mentioned, this is 2016, this is an election year, some of you are face-to-face students, some of you are online students, so a lot of things affect the context, and of course, your experience as a writer and what you think of writing, and if you love it, hate it, tolerate it, that sort of thing will all fit into the context as well for many of our assignments, because these four questions, these four elements actually of the rhetorical situation are going to be our focus, because if you take them with you, when this is part of the context, my plan for this class, if you take these notions with you and apply them to any writing assignment, you'll be doing the right kind of thinking to be as successful as possible. So context, audience, purpose, genre are all part of what I want you to learn, and what I want you to learn is part of the context of every writing assignment. Okay, so and there's much more to it than that. We can, just go for all kinds of stuff. Anyhow, so the next concern is audience. Like I said, it's part of your context. Certainly, as your instructor, I'm part of your audience. Your classmates are part of your audience. Other faculty at Spokane Falls are part of your audience because they will read, at least one other person, maybe two or three, maybe even four or five, will read your essays in the portfolio process, which we'll talk about in greater detail when it's more appropriate. But suffice it to say, you're not just writing to me, you're writing to your classmates who will be the first line readers, and you're writing to other faculty. You may want to be taking into account your parents, conceivably, or your spouse or your partner. They may want to see what you're doing. You may want to impress them with how you're doing, how well you're doing, I should say, in school, and that this is a good use of your money. So you just never know who your audience might be. Also, I write there that if you plan to transfer to WSU, maybe not what you write in this class, but some of the things you write at Spokane Fall will go into their, you might submit them, I should say, to the junior proficiency writing requirement expectation, so they'll want to see your work. So there's a lot of potential things. You're not just writing to please me, and but in some respects you are. You might consider me along the lines of an editor. When I write for publication, I write, obviously with, well, maybe not obviously, I write with the readership in mind as my audience, but my first line reader that I have to make happy is the publication's editor, because they know what will make the reader happy and buy the publication and read the publication and help them sell advertising and stay in business and feed their family and so on and so forth. So in many ways, teachers are like editors, and that we're the reader who understands the expectations of the broader audience, and we can help you tailor your work to that, and that's pretty much what we'll be doing here. So, but you in other situations, your audience, you might want to write a letter to the editor. You might have to write up a justification for a pay increase you've requested. You might have to justify why your job shouldn't be eliminated. Who knows? I mean, and so all of those are, the readers of those are potential audiences. So don't think too narrowly. You want to learn to think strategically about who does this need to, inform, and that will be good. So again, I've hit on context, audience. We're now at purpose, and again, and again and again. Now I'll have to see if I keep saying that too often. But purpose overlaps with audience, context, and genre. They are interrelated, and so what are you trying to achieve? I gave a few examples in mentioning audience of the things you might want to achieve. My purpose for the structure of this class is to help you go away from here with the notion that if you have to write something, you're going to consider context, audience, purpose, and genre first and foremost, and tailor your work to address what you consider to be important in those elements. There's no one shot fits all there. So one purpose is to help you be successful. And so one purpose of your writing might be to demonstrate that you understand the focus of this class, because a lot of the writing will be about these 4 ideas. Another purpose is to finish up and get a grade on the assignment. Another purpose is to pass the class. I hope another purpose is to learn these notions and benefit from them and apply them later on. A purpose might be to demonstrate that you are a capable writer, that you are a capable thinker, that you are an intelligent person, and so on and so forth. And so anyway, the purposes will be varied, giving the context, the audience. So keep that in mind. What do you want to accomplish? Every piece of writing must do something, and every piece of writing will do something. It will either demonstrate that you took something seriously and or that you didn't. It will demonstrate that you grasped the concept or you didn't. It will be presented in a way that shows consideration for your audience, or it won't. Say if you don't run a spell check, undermines your purpose and affects your audience, and is important in this context. So what do you want to do? What do you want to achieve? Keep that in mind, define it for yourself, and that will help you with your writing. The next final is genre, and again, it's overlapping everything else. We are writing academic essays. That is a genre in the same way that a text message to your friend is a genre, a Facebook post is a genre, a comment on Instagram is a genre, a letter to the editor is a genre, an editorial in the newspaper is a genre, newspaper article is a genre, a feature in that newspaper is a different genre than a straight news report, and so on and so forth. The genre expectations we'll touch on mostly with regard to American academic writing. A genre in and of itself is the genre of a summary and the genre of explaining information and why it matters and plug it into a broader context, the traditional academic essay element. So, and other classes, this academic essay I'm talking about will be different for your history class, will be different for your sociology class, psychology, your lab reports, and so on. So all of these have different expectations, and genre will usually have a formatting consideration. It will have the type of content and where it should go consideration. It will have the organization of that content consideration, whether you use headings or don't, whether you include images or you don't. All will be kind of genre dependent in what your audience wants from that genre within the particular context and depending upon the purpose of whatever it is you're working on. So you can see these are all wrapped up together. So think about these think about these four things and keep them in mind whenever you go to a writing task, and you should be more successful. It's just part of the thinking we hope to get you to do as a student in a writing class. Finally, at the bottom is a link to the Purdue OWL. OWL is an online writing lab. If you're not familiar with it, it's probably the best source of information available on the internet for student writers and writers who are students. And that's the reason we don't have a textbook for this class, because it's all out there for free. I won't ever assign it, but this is a good one. And so they have some good information. If you click that link and look at what they have to say, it aligns pretty closely with this rhetorical situation material, rhetorical triangle material, which they pretty much combine together, and that's how they choose to do it. So anyhow, that is it. We will be discussing this online and in class, depending upon which sort of student you are. So if some of it doesn't make sense, that's okay. We will be talking about it and getting it to make more sense, I hope. So I will see you in the classroom, see you online. Who knows? Talk to you soon, I hope. Bye-bye.